Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Priceless podcast. Today, of course, with a new guest, and we are traveling all the way to the southeast, but you will hear which country we're traveling to today. This podcast is made in partnership with the European Forum of LGBT Christian Groups. If you want to give a donation to the European Forum and or the podcast, you can find all the necessary information in the podcast description, as well as maybe some links that will be important for this interview. I guess that my guest will give me some links at least to the organization he's working for. So my new guest today is from Armenia. So we are traveling a little bit farther away from Croatia, and his name is Arman Sahakyan, and he will talk about himself and his work and his experience with in working with HIV people with HIV. So welcome, Arman, and can you say a few words about yourself so our audience could meet you and know a little bit more about who you are?
Thank you very much. Hello, everyone. Hello, Mikhail. First of all, thank you for this invitation, for such an amazing opportunity to have this conversation. I am really very ready to talk about the challenges and opportunities, everything related to HIV and also LGBTI activism in Armenia. I'm Arman. I'm representing New Generation Humanitarian NGO, which is a human rights defender and public health access organization. We are working in the field of protection of human rights. We are also working in the field of advocacy and ensuring access to public health services for vulnerable groups of the society, mostly for those groups who are the most discriminated against within the discriminated communities. So we work mostly with LGBTI community. We also work with the MSM, men who have sex with men community. We have a special accent on female sex workers, who are also having a lot of problems in the field of HIV and also in the field of protection of their rights. We are also working with the young populations and prisoners and ex-prisoners as well. We provide different legal consulting services to the community members. We support them in formation of legal documents. We also have a strategic litigation if it is related to violence, discrimination. We provide capacity building services, trainings, workshops, and different events related, what is related to capacity building of the communities. We also work in different researches and drafting legislations and submitting it to the National Assembly for adopting different legislations. Currently, we are advocating for adoption of the sex reassignment surgery legislation and legal gender recognition. And we are the only organization that provides HIV and AIDS prevention services to men who have sex with men, to female sex workers, and transgender community.
Wow, that's quite a lot what you do and what change you're trying to bring to Armenia. Is it okay if I ask you, because I ask most of my guests, what sexual orientation you are and gender identity?
I'm a cisgender gay man.
Mm-hmm. So you are working with people with HIV in Armenia. Can you tell us a little bit about what the situation is like for people with HIV there?
HIV and AIDS situation in Armenia is, to be honest, is still a taboo topic because a lot of people are still being discriminated just because of their HIV status. and not only within the vulnerable communities, but like within the whole society, because for many years, people have always thought that HIV is something that is related to perverts, that is related to people who don't behave themselves. And people have always thought that this is a disease which is not possible to cure. So due to that, many people are still afraid of being tested and knowing about their HIV status. Because Armenian population is not so big, we don't have that high like numbers like in other bigger countries, but still within like 2 million population to a little bit more population, we have like estimated number of 4,000 people living with HIV right now in the country, which is an official statistic, and we think that we should at least multiply it by 10 in order to get the like real result and to get the real number of the people living with HIV in our country. Related to vulnerability, people living with HIV are facing discrimination in different state institutions, like in law institutions. They face a lot of discrimination and violence within the medical system, especially in the hospitals, and they are more vulnerable if they don't live in the capital city of Armenia in Yerevan, but they live in the other districts of the country. We have the Global Fund to Fight AIDS, Tuberculosis and Malaria, which is the biggest funder of HIV prevention programs in the country, more than 10 years already. The Global Fund is funding programs which are covering antiretroviral therapies, which are covering prevention programs. And since 2022, we are going to have the last phase and the last cycle of funding from the GF, which is a transitional period for Armenia to actually be transmitted. The funds should be transmitted from Global Fund to the government funding. And since 2024, we will have to transmit to government funding, which is still a challenge for us because Armenia is not that developed country that can cover all the costs related to HIV prevention. Related to PrEP and PrEP, the topic is very new now. If people now have more awareness about HIV, PrEP and PrEP are still the topics that not really very known to the society. So we are now raising awareness about the possibilities of getting PrEP and of getting PrEP if needed. And since maybe September, we will start a pilot project. We will be funding PrEP for men who have sex with men as one of the most vulnerable groups and as a risk group for HIV. So in order to see the results, how we are mitigating the new cases of HIV among the MSM community by PrEP.
So you're saying that you're funding this medication. Does that mean that nothing is covered when someone is HIV positive? Nothing is covered by Social Security or health security?
We don't have a health insurance programs that are covering antiretroviral therapies, but this is free of charge for the people because we are getting funds from the Global Fund. So we buy the medication with the financial support of the Global Fund. So people who are diagnosed with HIV, they instantly start treatment with antiretroviral therapies. But related to PrEP, you have to pay for PrEP in Armenia, so it is not free. Many people cannot afford themselves to buy PrEP, and many people start comparing, for example, if I buy these drugs, maybe I can spend the money on something else, so why should I spend on the drugs, the money that I have? So we decided to somehow to cover this gap and to understand how it is demanded within the MSM community in our country.
So the situation is quite hard in Armenia with the whole issue of LGBT and obviously HIV. But let's stick to HIV now. I'm also going to ask you about the situation in general in Armenia. But how do you work in such a situation where it is hard to talk about this topic, where this is such a big taboo? How do you talk about HIV prevention and, about PrEP or, other medication that people can get and use to feel better? Or be safe?
Yeah, thank you for the question. By the way, very interesting question. In every single society, if it is a conservative society with a historical background of, of a reflection of church, of different cultural traditions and everything, it is always very hard to go faster. So we go step by step every single time. I don't like this word, but I have to say with a big fight. This is a real fight in the country for achieving equal rights and also for raising awareness of the society on such topics as, for example, HIV, right? Very often people call us perverts. Very often people call us international and foreign agents from Europe and the USA who are in this country for destroying the Armenian traditional families and the values. I was personally in 2014 recognized as the enemy of nation by one of the governmental newspapers who published my personal information, who called me the witness of Conchita Wurst, and actually called for zero tolerance towards my personality. So yes, this is a huge fight that we are going through, but we don't really want to give up, and we believe that we will achieve a change. Not that fast, but step by step and one person at a time.
How is it? It's a taboo topic. How much are they even recognized within Armenia?
If I understood right your question, do you mean how they are diagnosed, or?
Yeah, well, I'm more interested in, how is it for them once they are diagnosed, job-wise, in every aspect of their life with their families, and yeah, what's happening to them, and how are they dealing with this hardship, living in such a surrounding where you are actually very discriminated.
Yeah, as I already mentioned, people living with HIV are still being discriminated against, but the society now has more awareness about the disease. The society understands that people living with HIV are still full members of the society. But there are a lot of cases when people diagnose with HIV and they hide it. They just hide it. And of course, it's a human right. We know that in the concept of right to health and human rights, HIV is something that can be not disclosed if the person doesn't want it. So a lot of people don't really disclose their HIV status. But as soon as they disclose their HIV status, for sure there will be several people who will stay away from them. Recently, we had the case when one of our beneficiaries had COVID-19, and one of his friends was and he is also HIV positive. And one of his friends got to know that he was COVID positive and also HIV positive, but he wasn't concerned that he had COVID-19, but he didn't want to go to him because he had HIV, but not COVID.
Wow. Yeah, sad when things like this happen. You work with a really wide variety of people, with many people groups. Do you also know what's happening? Because there are always also children who get born and get infected with HIV. What's happening with children when they're HIV positive? Are there any programs that help them?
Armenia is one of those unique countries who in 2016 had 0 cases from mother to child. And we, if I'm not mistaken, we are still keeping this position. So we have not maybe 0, but very few cases of transmission from mother to child cases. But when the baby is diagnosed with HIV, there are programs, of course, for treatment for also children who get the medication, who are under the control of the doctors, and they are being raised and living full life, of course, with medication, which is also free of charge.
A few years ago, we were supposed to have a conference in Armenia, and something happened that all the plans had to change almost last minute. Can you maybe say a few words what happened? That was 2017, 18? 18, I think.
It was the 2018, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
It
was 2018.
Yeah, can you tell our viewers?
Yeah, of course. Sure. Before 2018, I would like to say that I'm a member of the organizing committee of the LGBT Christian groups of Central Asia, Eastern Europe and Central Asia. So when I was on one of the meetings, we decided that the next intern meeting of our platform would happen in Yerevan, Armenia, because Armenia, is a very historical country which is known as one the first country in the world that adopted Christianity as state religion. So we decided to actually organize our meeting in this country. We started preparation works. We had to announce about receiving applications for participation, as it is being done usually. Afterwards, the information somehow was leaked in the Russian media, after which the so-called Russian-funded movements who are fighting against LGBTI movements in Armenia by trying to prove that this is something that is imported from Europe. This is a political aspect of LGBT issues being as a tool for political games. Our opponents started believing that now we are trying to change the Bible. So we were trying to somehow to destroy our culture by changing the Bible and by proving or somehow convincing on the people that this, as they called it, pervertism, is something normal within this society. We got attacked a lot. We were being chased. Every single media in Armenia was talking about the forum that should happen in the country. After which we were physically and personally attacked in the street. And after that, we just decided that we should cancel the forum just for the security and safety of the people who were going to travel and to come to Armenia. This was a very hard decision. This was a very heartbreaking decision because we were waiting a lot for it in this country. But then we understand that we were really playing with the security and safety of the people, the guests who were going to come. And we finally decided to cancel the event in Armenia.
So what is the situation now? Did anything change? What's the situation?
If you are aware, I don't know, Mikhail, in 2018, we also had the Velvet Revolution. So the government was changed and the new government came to power, after which we were very naive and we thought that everything is changed now. So we're going to, to get the progress. We're going to work with the government, and the government was calling themselves very liberal, and they were actually crying out that we are for human rights. But who knew that when they were saying human rights, LGBT had no place there. And after that, we understood that everything started from the point of zero. If we had achieved something before revolution, we understood that we were going to go for the same direction from the point of zero, and to start working and raising awareness, first of all, the new officials that came to the power. Sometimes some officials, including the prime minister, were trying to be somehow, LGBTI friendly, having different speeches from the National Assembly, but the messages, the narratives they were bringing were very homophobic, and they were kind of creating the opposite picture of what they wanted to say. So we started working also with the officials, but to be honest, after revolution, for the first time ever in our country, we were able to work with the police. So we had an access to the police academy, and currently we are having, academic hours there, and our lawyers are learning the students about the violence and about discrimination towards LGBTI community. And the students are having this as an academic hour, and after which they will also have an exam on it. So this is something very important that we achieved somehow. But when it comes to political games, Armenian LGBTI community is always a political tool for games against each other of different political powers. For example, now the previous government, the previous regime, is blaming the new government for promoting LGBTI pervertism, as they call it. And we are criticizing the new government because they are not that friendly.
So how does this go? What's your impression when you're working on the police academy? What's your impression? How do people accept these teachings and information about LGBT people?
1 person at a time, as I mentioned already, right? So when you are teaching like 10 people, you should understand that maybe only one you will get a result of 1% from out of 10. So, but this is also a result, because the one can also change the others as well. So we have this example when our beneficiaries, I would say, they were in the park and they had a homophobic attack from some homophobes, and they called the police, and the police came. First of all, the police started protecting our beneficiaries, and the second, they said they recognized one of our employees, and they said, "Oh, are you from New Generation NGO?" This person said, "Yes, I am." And he was like, "I have attended your training, and yeah, I remember it's not homo addicted, but homosexual person, right? For example." So we saw this result on the practice. When they came, they protected, and also they somehow tried to remember if they were right, or not.
Yeah. What else is there that you see happening in Armenia and that gives you hope for the future of Armenia?
Unfortunately, after the war in September 2020 between Armenia and Azerbaijan, everything is somehow stopped now, and the whole country is mourning the losses that we had, the young soldiers that died during the war. But the life is going on, and we believe that we should continue the activism, because it is something that if you miss or if you have a gap in something, then you will go back as a snowball from the hill. So we need to, first of all, to survive, honestly, and afterwards we need to fight further in order to achieve something that is called equal rights. During the war, it was very sad for me, because a lot of homophobes, they were like, send the gays to the front today, not our other soldiers. So this was a hate message that really broke my heart, because I personally have a lot of gay friends who died during the war on the front. And here we understand that fight is something that should go on. Life is going on. And as a part of the whole world, this country should continue developing and achieving democracy and equal rights for all.
What kind of support do you personally get? How is it for you and your family? Being gay in Armenia is obviously not easy. So what support system do you have?
Thanks to God, I have a lot of support from different friends, family members. I'm really loved by the ones whom I love, and this is the most important thing for me in my life. The ones who were lost in my life just because of my activism, just because of my maybe sexuality, I don't know. It is a loss for themselves, but not for me. I have already mentioned it to them because I have never said goodbye to them. They said it to me. So it's their problem. It's not mine.
Yeah, there is not much you can do at this
Yeah,
point.
of course. It's their choice. Every single person has a choice. So some people made their choices by saying goodbye to me. And it's their choice. They're right, maybe.
There is one question I forgot to ask you earlier when you talked, because you mentioned about the fear that you're changing the Bible and and different sentences that were said about what you are actually doing, but you're not. Just for the viewers to understand, what is the majority church or faith organization in Armenia?
It is the Armenian Apostolic Church.
So it's yes.
Yeah. According to the official statistics, the national data as we call it, more than 90%, it's almost like 99% of the population are following the Armenian Apostolic Church.
And that's like Orthodox, or is it different?
It's a how is it called? It's a wing of Orthodox, right? If I'm not mistaken in English, yeah. So we call it Apostolic Church.
And what is the connection between the church and the government? I see it's a difficult question. It's a complicated question, at least.
I will say this way. Before the Velvet Revolution, the church was a part of the government, oligarchic and mafia system. After the revolution, the church is an institution that keeps like total silence related to everything. Our patriarch actually had a speech only during the organizational phase of the European Forum of LGBT Christian Groups in Armenia, when he came up with a speech by condemning us, of course, and publicly saying that this is a pervertism and this is something that, first of all, will destroy the church. After that, I think that nowadays the church is secretly functioning from the government, because our prime minister himself said that the church should function secretly from the government. But from time to time, when it comes to the to the PR of the previous government, to the previous regime, some priests and some churches start speaking up about how it was good and better before revolution, because they have more power on, selling drugs and having different businesses. But now the church is more like people-oriented, I would say. They are trying to somehow to get oriented on the people, to serve the people as they should. But we don't have proper narratives and strategy on how to work with the church related to human rights, tolerance, and non-discrimination.
Is there an interest with the organization to try and do something?
Yeah, recently we were having a conversation with the Gene office, and to their question how the international community could support in the field of LGBTI activism and religion. I said that first of all, we need the capacity. We really need to build our capacities on how to build proper narratives when you work with the church in order to change their narratives related to discrimination, and especially discrimination against LGBTI people.
Which is not so easy. It's not an easy task.
Of course.
Can you tell me what keeps you going? You are going through this hardship. I mean, you went through so much hardship with getting attacked as LGBT people, as an organization that works with HIV. Then you had the war. You said you lost so many people you knew. What keeps you going?
My love to this country, because I really love my country. I really love my homeland, and I really believe that I belong to this country, and I'm never going to give up. I will fight all my life, loving this country and fighting for making it a better place in the world for all.
Well, one thing I hope is that this video might maybe also see someone from Armenia. If they do, I think it would be definitely good if you can provide me with a link to your organization or any information where people can reach you in some way. If it's to the webpage, that's of course enough. So, dear viewers, I see Arman nodding. So if you are from Armenia or even not, I don't know, is your webpage in English too?
Yes, it's also in English, so people can easily read it.
Great. So, dear viewers, even if you're not from Armenia, you can take a look at the webpage of the organization, A New Generation, and see what they're doing and find some information. Even if you want, I believe you can support their work and help them with their work. So, yeah, Arman, is there anything that you would like to say at the end of this interview as a message, even if it's someone from Armenia or the people in Europe or the world? Who knows who is watching us?
Yeah, the message that I always bring to the people is that hate is not something that is being loved by God, because God loves everyone and God accepts everyone. So God bless every single person in this world. Just love, be loved, and just spread your love in this world.
Beautiful message. Thank you, Arman, so much. I always like to ask the viewers also a question. So I would like to hear what your experience is of the situation in your country with people who are HIV positive. If you want to leave a comment, maybe there is a way also to leave an anonymous comment. I know it's not that easy. Or if you want to, you can just go to the Priceless webpage that you will also find in the podcast description. You can contact us through the contact form on the webpage and just tell us what you think or send an answer, and I can post it without a name on the YouTube channel and also the podcast underneath the podcasts. So thank you all for being with me. Thank you, dear Arman, for taking this time and talking to us and sharing your experience about Armenia. It was fun to travel virtually.
Thank you for the invitation.
You're very welcome. It was fun to travel virtually. I hope that I'll make it. I was supposed to come to Yerevan 2018. Unfortunately, It didn't work out. And I'm really sad that it didn't work out. But let's hope that it's going to be better in the future.
Let's do hope. Yes, of course.
So thank you.
Hope, love, and live.
Yes. Thank you all for being with us. We'll see you in a week. Don't forget that you can make a donation to European Forum or to this podcast and help this to continue, as well as the work of the European Forum. You can find the necessary links in the podcast description. And this podcast is made in partnership with the European Forum. So until next Monday, this is it from us today. All I can say is bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.